Hola, fellow plant conquistadors. I, Cortez the Conqueror, have discovered the secret to ultimate plant domination. Behold, the magical grow dots and the miraculous recharge. With these, even the most novice grower can conquer the mightiest of indoor jungles. Grow dots, my friends, are no ordinary pellets. They are time-released nutrients, crafted by the gods of cultivation themselves. One application provides all the sustenance your green subjects need for a full 16-week grow cycle. Imagine that. Simply sprinkle these enchanted pellets into your soil and watch your plants thrive. But remember, brave cultivators, even the mightiest conquistador needs balanced pH for a successful conquest. Fear not. For Recharge, our microbial ally shall defend your plants against the dreaded nutrient lockout. This instant compost tea introduces beneficial microbes to the root zone, creating a thriving ecosystem in your soil. The result? Stronger, more resilient plants that laugh in the face of pests and diseases. Witness the fruits of our labor. Lush, vibrant plants that would make even Montezuma jealous. Are you ready to simplify your grow and maximize your yields? Then heed my call. Join me on this epic growing adventure. Visit www.realgrowers.com/Cortez and use code Cortez for a Conqueror's discount. Follow my conquest on Instagram at Cortez the Conqueror. Together, we shall rule the indoor growing world. Real growers, real conquests. Viva la Grow Revolution.
Go to the link in the description to save big and score free shipping on all Real Growers products. Or use coupon code Cortez at checkout. Every time you save, you're also helping the channel bring you content like this.
What's going on, everybody? It's Cortez the Conqueror. Oh, wait a second. Here we go. And Canna Alicia. How you doing today, Alicia?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm good. That kind of threw me off. I was like in the wrong thing to where it was like
Kick
full
mode.
screen.
Like,
I'm
oh,
like,
Cortez
wait, no,
all
this
the
isn't
time.
it. It is the Cortez channel.
Hmm.
So this has actually kind of been a big week. So Friday, I actually got a big announcement for you guys. So from last week, we actually just got enough watch hours to get monetized. So everything from the Free Grow 8 premiere last week just posted on Friday. I've started with, I guess you still got to go through like an approval process, like once you hit like all the numbers and everything. I talked to Grambo though. It's kind of like my
Yeah.
YouTube guru.
He's a YouTube guru.
Yeah. Oh, he's taught me about like the algorithm, like how to make titles, packaging, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But he can take like a week. But just want to let everybody know that pretty soon we are going to be offering channel membership and some exclusive content that you guys will only be able to find in the members only area.
We already got a couple things up our sleeves, so excited.
Oh, we definitely do. Yeah, we've actually just gotten a couple big guests, a few, but one we've recorded with already, one we got in the works that you guys wouldn't believe.
Mhm. Yeah.
But before we get too far into today's show, I got to give a huge shout out to the channel sponsors, Real Growers, where if you guys want to save 10% on Grow Dots, Recharge, or a Real Bucket system, just go down to the description and you will find a clickable link. And then what do you got going on over there, Alicia?
Can of Cans coming soon. I can't wait for the website to be officially open, restocked, and ready to help you germinate your domination station. And also down in the description, you can find a clickable link. Or if you are on their site already, you just type in Canna in the coupon code at checkout, and you save some money on your order.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but if you guys want any more information on that one to get yourself a can, just go down to the description and find Alicia's clickable link.
Yep. Dominate that station of germination. Stick it in your can.
Hell yeah. But before we blab on for too long, let's bring on our guest. What's going on, my boy?
Yo, how's it going?
Pretty good.
Hello. Thank you for coming.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been so I met Cortez several years ago. I think I met you at what was my first like public event that I attended.
Okay.
And that was
a coincidence.
Maybe 2.5 years ago.
Well, not really. Everything comes full circle.
Yeah. We were like right next to each other. Our booths were right next to each other, and we got through chatting and stuff like that. So that was cool. And then I remember you came over with your wife.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, with your fiance, because I know you mentioned you guys getting married here shortly.
Yeah, but we might as well have been married for 10 years already.
Yeah. I have that habit too.
Piece of paper yet.
But yeah, no, and then to watch the evolution of your Instagram to then become a channel and stuff like that. So it's been pretty cool, man. I'm glad we've been able to stay in tune.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, I remember you were out there. You had the wife. I think your brother was out there. You the Cortez juices.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he had a table full of the Cortez juice. We were talking about the tinctures and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was actually kind of one of the things where we hit it up because both of us like to do stuff with like the edibles. I think we probably got like a little bit different methods, but both of us at the end of the day still have some pretty phenomenal offerings when it comes to edible kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think I mentioned too at the time, like I had been focused more on like dosage, right? Because dosage was a big thing for me because I came into the weed game as a medicinal patient. So dosing was always important for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Plus, like
that's
a whole journey in itself too.
Like Navy guys are very precise.
Yeah, I try to be, right? Mainly because I always think about like my wife's first experience and like how it almost was so bad that it turned her off of, you know, weed completely. So
Really?
so for me, it was more like I don't ever want to put anybody in that position, you know, like because I know, you know, I've learned how useful it is and how, you know,
Right.
if done
Built up a
properly.
tolerance.
Yeah. Yeah. So being able to explain that to people or have people do that for themselves, for me, it became important.
Oh, yeah.
And then never mind, once I actually learned how to get access to a lab and to be able to actually test my recipes, you know, then that made a whole difference, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
What got
'Cause,
you
yeah, that-
started? You know, I was just gonna ask what got you started doing it, like learning about it and using it, producing medical.
So I came into it, it was really by accident. It just so happened that at the time that I met a doctor that could actually prescribe like for a medical license.
Right.
The conversations around cannabis had softened, right? And I felt comfortable enough to say like, okay, well, as long as I have this license, I'll feel comfortable at least experimenting with it. And as I experimented with it more and more, I started to realize that my regular prescriptions weren't getting filled with the same frequency. And so that like it just sparked a curiosity for me, right? Like, wait a minute, is there a correlation? You know, you start looking up articles. At the time, they were a lot harder to find than they are now, right?
Yeah, I
Or
know.
studies and stuff like that. So
Right.
thankful for the fact that, you know, more funding and it's been spent in research and stuff like that. But that road led me down a path that eventually said, yes, there is a direct correlation between cannabis and how you're using it. And eventually I kept scratching that itch and I started to learn, oh, the science behind it. And as boring as that might be for some people, at least for me, it was like a kid in a candy store. Like, cause I love knowledge, right? Never mind if it's something that I actually care about. Even more so of a reason to, you know, to dive in. And so I started to learn, you know, I started to learn like how to be able to blend it using different emulsifiers for different applications, right? Putting it in liquid versus baking it versus, you know, cooking it in different ways. And then being able to manage those doses, you know, no more rolling the dice, you know, is this going to be a 50 milligram?
You know
or is it gonna be
exactly
a
what
5
you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And so,
You know, I think that's one of the things that's really cool though, because it's kind of like in that hunger and that thirst for knowledge that you have. I know that's one of like the aspects of your business. You're kind of like providing education and you do like a lot of tutorial stuff.
yeah. And originally when we first started like coming out of like I call it the dungeon because it was a time in the early days, it was part of a bigger, it was a bigger project to see if one, we could prove like a model to scale to get a craft cultivator's license, right? And that project versus like a home grow project, totally different, right? Totally different objectives and
Two
stuff
different
like that.
animals.
Yeah. But like scaling it back and scaling down to like where I'm at, like my level, like a manageable, just for me, not for the sake of money. And I feel like that was like a pivoting point too, right? Like you're no longer doing this like from just a money perspective, but you're doing it from like actual application perspective.
Yeah.
And that for me was like a really critical point too, right? As an entrepreneur, right? And it's probably still one of the points where I struggle the most, right? As an entrepreneur is I have this knowledge and I can share it with people. And unfortunately at the time it was like the middle of the pandemic. So it was like, I have this knowledge, I want to connect with people, but I don't know how, you know, I don't know how to share it with them.
Yeah.
You didn't really know what the medium was going to be.
Yeah. And so like it started off just being like just consulting because at the time the home grow kind of revolution was happening here because the state became legal. And so people were like, how do I convert my attic or how do I convert my basement or my closet or whatever? And I just so happened to have a background as a project manager for my brother's a general contractor. So I'm like, oh, this is like right up my alley. This is perfect, you know?
Yeah.
But then the pandemic was over and then it was like, okay, like now how do I reach people? You know, because not so many home growers. There's less interest in it because real life has picked up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, there was a huge boom during COVID for people just being stuck in their house. Like companies like Mars Hydro, AC Infinity kind of
Yeah.
cashed in on the pandemic.
Yeah.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
people were successful, some people weren't. Some people went back to the dispensaries because they didn't get the exact results that they want.
Yeah.
yeah, and it became like for me, I feel like people were missing out, right? Because I recognize, right, like from a larger scale and a smaller scale, like it's a lot of work. It can be easy, but then like you said, you might not always get the result that you want because you're
Yeah.
taking
Right.
shortcuts and saving money and all that.
Exactly.
And I get it.
And the
There's
light bill still costs the same thing anyways.
Yeah. It does.
and so trying to help like decode that for people, like it's what I wanted to do. It's like, like I understand I can do this for whatever your budget is, and really it's about managing expectations at that point, right? And letting people know, okay, if you're going to use this really small budget, manage your expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
And so now
At
though,
least invest in a good light that's putting out some kind of wattage, because
well,
I don't know. Some people get caught up on like, oh, low light, it's okay, but it's like, it's pretty much like the battery of your plant.
yeah, and it's definitely it's one of those things where you don't want to skimp. Like out of all of the things that you do,
Yeah,
right? Like your
Skimp
life for
on
sure.
nothing else. Do not skimp on a light.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow, right? Because and the way I try to explain it in most cases, if you go cheap
You
on a
should be
light,
spending at least like $800 on a decent grow light.
well, and the way that it translates, right? Because like for a lot of people, $800 or $1,500 right off the top is a lot, right?
Mhm.
Right.
But when you start to factor in, well, the cheap light over time, what you're going to be spending in your electrical and all this in
Right.
comparison to what your output is might not make that much sense. So long term,
Plus,
and that
I don't know, for like me personally, I wasted so much money like early growing trying to be cheap, because it was like shit that I just had to replace anyways.
That's
So
what
it's
I was
like
gonna
I
say.
could have got the $800 light, but I found this one for $250, and I heard this guy on YouTube say he had such great results with it. But then after I bought the $250 light, I'm getting larfy buds. I'm not really getting the weight and the harvest I wanted. Guess what I did? I still bought the $800 light anyways, when I could have just done that in the first place.
from the beginning. Yeah. Except
I could have just ripped off the Band-Aid, but no.
I will caution though, because I actually got in like around the time where there was the beginning of the shift from like HID or HPS lights to like LED. And then I ended up paying, there was like this in between kind of light for a little bit. It was kind of LED, but it was like high heat. And
the
then I ended
Blurple
up
light. It had fans that sounded like an Apache taking off.
Yep.
Right, Anna.
That. And I paid so much
It would
money
be the
for it,
loudest thing in your fucking grow tent.
and they put out so much heat.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and so I learned from that, but unfortunately, that's part of the whole process. I think my entire system right now has been built in part.
What can we
by
call
failure.
it? Growing pains.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Did you start off wanting to edibles, or was it something that like evolved over time of growing and then learning, or did you have that set in mind prior because of dispensary and trying it?
To be honest, it was all, I was kind of guided by like what my friends had questions about, right? Like,
Kind of sparked the curiosity.
It was like a lot of it, and they're like, well, how do you do that? And I'm like, you know what, I don't know, I'll look into it. And then
I'll find out.
And the funny thing is that
it's like Bill Nye the Science Guy over here.
Yeah, my interest really took off when once I actually knew how to access a lab, and once I could actually take my stuff, because up to that point it was like, up to a certain point, still a guessing game, right? Because like you would go online, you would do the calculator, you would and then, but when I got to a lab, and then I saw like how big of a difference between my math and the lab result was, I was like, wait a minute. And so that, that made it easier for me to say, okay, now I'm not guessing. Now I know that if I use this portion, this percentage to that percentage of emulsifier or whatever, and these ingredients, this is what I'm going to get. And when I was able to do that consistently, then I felt comfortable enough sharing that with other people and say, okay, at the bare minimum, I know that if you do these steps with these ingredients, you're gonna get X result, you know, or at least in that
Most
ballpark.
definitely.
So
So did you
that's,
want to tell us a little bit more about like exactly what Mojo's is, just for like the people out
Yeah.
there that don't know? Like, can you kind of describe what your business is a little bit more?
so yeah, it keeps evolving on me, right? Like I'm trying to fine tune it. I'm in that space right now as an entrepreneur where I'm trying to fine tune it. At the core of what my philosophy is to teach, right? To educate people, right? And more so for the sake of empowerment, right? Like I
Right.
feel like
So
one of the-
everybody has access to the knowledge.
yeah, and do with it what you will, right? Like one, I have the knowledge through trial and error and through my experience. I've been able to achieve X amount, right? And it's not something that's unattainable. So I have the ability to articulate, right? At least enough for a wide range of experiences, for a wide range of like education levels and stuff like that. And I enjoy it, right? Because it, to me, like as a cultivator, right, the opportunity to plant a new seed, right? And
Most
so,
definitely.
so that's at the core where education and consulting for the sake of empowering consumers. Because the other side of it is that as a consumer, right, I grew up in a generation where I was just fed a bunch of BS and I drank the Kool-Aid, right? Like the way I consume. And I hate that that same thing is being done in the cannabis industry, right? I feel like, right, the cannabis plant, there's a lot of power there. There's a lot of ability and a lot that can come out of it from like economic, medicinal, like all kinds of levels. And I hate that the industry treats it like any other commodity, right? I hate that the industry as a whole,
Like any other form of row crop.
Well, look
yeah,
how seriously we take
soybeans.
medicine anyways here, so I'm not totally surprised.
yeah, and I can't, right? I can't do anything about any of that stuff.
No, yeah.
But at least about cannabis, at least because I know that it's new, and at least that I know that I have some level of experience, knowledge that I can share that is proven with people, then they as consumers can make whatever decision they want, right? You either keep drinking the Kool-Aid if you want, or you can pivot and say, you know what, I'm going to be smarter with my dollars about how I spend and who I'm empowering with my dollars as I spend.
Right. That's the best part about capitalism, though. You know what I mean? It really does. Well, no, I'm just saying, like, it really does create kind of like that space when you have a free market economy to where you get to choose who your money goes to. So you get to basically vote with your dollars. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm assuming, right? Assuming equal access, assuming equal to resources and funding and stuff like that. But I think that's a much broader, much heavier discussion, right?
Yeah.
No, I was just kind of speaking more to like, I think you get I think with that you get like a better quality of service because like you're actually incentivizing people to try. Because like if all the money is just going to one place, they're gonna treat you like you're walking into the DMV. Like we're the only show in town, you got to deal with it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I feel like that's kind of what we see unfolding here in the market in Illinois, right? Like you try to, and that's the really unfortunate part of it, you know. And here, you know, everybody else thinks,
I'll be honest with you, I wish Illinois just went back illegal. It would take care of a lot of the problems. Like I know that there's not too many people. Well, there's some people that agree with me. Let's go back to like 1999. We were doing just fine.
And well, I mean, I think as a whole, right? Because you're seeing markets across, not just here in Illinois, but like the instability now you have in the California market and the Colorado market, like all of these markets that once upon a time were like thriving are now struggling because now everybody's trying to backtrack. Now everybody's trying to like out-regulate whoever the fuck to say, and they're just getting in their own way. So it's really,
and then on top of it, they're really driving the prices down, which is driving down the quality of like dispensary cannabis, because it's like if you're selling pounds for $600, like what is the quality going to be? And if that's who I got to keep up in the marketplace with, what corners do I got to cut to where this is still profitable for me?
Yeah, and that's why for me, like like I said, originally when I got into like actually cultivating like larger scale, it was with the intent to get a craft cultivator license, with the intent to kind of get
Yeah.
into the market that way. But since then, like I really have had like do some soul searching because I've seen what that market looks like. I've seen what
What
that
did they
process.
give out in
Like
Illinois?
the
Like
side?
36, 37 licenses for like the actual like full scale cultivation when it came out, and I think it was like a $34,000 lottery ticket.
Yeah, and well, not just that. I mean, when you talk about like having the ability to actually go online. I mean, having the license is one thing, but having the ability to go online when you can't get funding, you know, through like traditional resources, like it
Yeah.
makes it so hard. So unless you got a rich uncle or, you know, a rich
You're
network,
some kind of like trust fund kid.
Yeah.
Your
That's
last
what
name is
they did.
Pritzker.
yeah. Hence all the Chads and the Brads out there, all those
The Chad-
MSOs. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I mean, that's just facts, right? But so for me, I feel like really what I want to do is to be able to have the knowledge or that I have and make it accessible to people, you know, in as many
Make it
ways or as many forms.
relatable, make it understandable to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, because beyond the cannabis part of it, so Mojo's is one part, and Mojo's is like the cannabis part of it, and then Aim Higher is something that kind of evolved from the philosophy of Mojo's,
Okay.
and that's more like a life philosophy, right? And by that I mean doing more to disconnect from our dependencies on like systemic things, right? Because especially now, I feel like especially now more than any other time, at least in recent history in my life anyway, that getting away from the dependency of like say food systems and stuff like that, we have less skills now than we had, you know, 30
100.
years ago, 70 years ago. And so like during the pandemic, we kind of saw it a little bit, right? Like we saw supply systems crumble and like, and granted, it was only temporary, but we saw the ripple effect globally, right?
I think my favorite meme that I seen during COVID, I forget what the picture was exactly, but it was like, oh, this explains the toilet paper shortage. Everybody had to try their own cooking for the first time.
Yeah. That's when I started making bread, because they was go to the grocery store and I don't eat white bread, but I love bread.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, well, my mom bought us a bunch of wheat flour, and then I started making bread because then I could have my bread.
Yeah.
Right. It's like the pandemic came around. It's like you don't want a girl that can take cute selfies no more. I want a girl that can go out in the yard and like wring a chicken's neck.
Yeah, for real.
You gotta kind of like reassess some of your priorities.
But you know what? That's real talk. And at least in my experience, at least in the people that I've encountered, right, that had lived, adults, right, adults that lived through the pandemic.
Yeah.
And you talk to them after the fact, and you either took the time to reflect and learn and reassess like your life and reinvest your time and energies, or you just kind of double down on the fact that you need something systemic to sustain you, right? And that's why I feel like there's a lot of revolution, like homesteading. There's a lot more interest in being able to do that, myself included, right? Myself included. Like I have even down here. So I know Cortez. I know you came down and you saw my space when you came by one time.
Yeah, we came for that barbecue. I think it was last summer, maybe 2 summers ago.
Yeah, and so since then I've changed, right, my space, because now that I realize like how many harvests I go through a year, like to sustain myself. I realized, you know what, I don't need to have the 2 tents going, you know, side by side. One of the spaces now I'm actually converting to grow like my fruits year round indoor, because I started a garden last year outdoor, with varying degrees of success, right? Because it was my first time doing outdoor grow in an uncontrolled environment. Like
I think you were
end,
getting set up for something when we came over there, because you were like out there like tilling the yard.
Yeah. So
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. So that was last year then. Yeah. So that was last year.
Okay. Last year.
And so so I was like, that was great, but I want to be able to grow year round, and obviously I can't do that outdoors here.
Yeah.
But last year I started an avocado tree and a lime tree outdoors, and I didn't want them to die, so I brought them inside and I put them under one of my grow lights, and I've kept them alive all winter in my basement.
Nice.
An avocado tree and a lime tree, and then so I'm like, you know what?
Yeah.
This is my last harvest.
Do you start like jarring stuff? Like, do you make like jams or like pickles or anything?
So not yet, but I will. So
you got that abuelita basement with all the jars going around.
So that's next. That's next, right? So part of the investment, I'm trying to convince my wife to let me buy a freeze dryer, because then I will have multiple uses.
You could make the best hash that way.
And there we go, right? Full
multiple
circle, right?
uses.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the plan, right? That's the plan, because then at the very minimum, I know I have things that I need, right? I have weed, right? I have my medicine, I've got food, at least enough to keep myself, going. And I'm developing the skill, right? Like at the end of the day, what I'm trying to be is useful, right? Useful, not just for myself, but to the people in my circle, right?
Right.
And so that's where I like my utility is like kind of creating solutions to potential problems. It's not to say that we have a food problem or crisis just yet, but the way things are going, that's not too far.
Another option.
I've never seen so many of these recalls. Like since 2025, it's like every week something new. It's like, oh, did you buy these baked? Well, I baked myself, but did you buy these baked goods? Did you get this mayonnaise?
They said with these potato chips, if you eat them, you might die.
Awesome.
Yeah. Even with my dog's food, right? Like, already I've had to change their food 3 different times because of different recalls, like, and so to the point where we don't even buy their food anymore. Like they get like a whole day dedicated to like just meal prepping for them. I don't even meal prep for myself.
Dog food.
Yeah, but I go to Costco. Yeah, I buy like 40 pounds of chicken, chicken hearts, rice. They eat better than me, bro. They eat like much less processed food than I do.
Right
so
on.
I'm just trying to catch up with my dogs.
Yeah, I know. I want the dog life.
That's so funny.
Yeah, that's real talk.
So let's kind of take it back to the beginning a little bit though. Like, how did you get kind of like your start with cultivation in the first place? What age were you? How did you kind of get introduced to cannabis as a whole? But also, how did you start growing?
So my first, I want to say like the first conversations that I had with like to start growing wouldn't have been until like 2016. So it was about 9 years ago. And so
but is that like when you started smoking? Is that when you got introduced to cannabis? Does that go further back? Because I know you got a little bit of time in the military, so you probably weren't doing cannabis like at that point.
Yeah, so I got out in 2009. And actually, so the first day, I could tell you the first day I got high. The first day I ever got high was July 3rd, 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You know the exact date.
Yeah, absolutely.
See that's all you know. He's a Navy guy, though. Those are like the worst COs to have in the joint because they got the rule book memorized and they can tell you like what rules are like on what page of the rule book.
No, yeah, that day it's crazy because I was super crossfaded that day, but there was something very unique about getting high. Like I had gotten drunk thousands of times in my life up to that point, right? But that time I got high. The crazy part is that I remembered everything very clearly, as opposed to like, getting blackout drunk that I've done so many times before. I remember
what did I do last night?
Yeah, and it was awesome because I liked it. I liked the fact that I didn't have to rely on other people to tell me, oh, this is how the night went. I was like, bro, I remember everything. I remember every conversation. And so that was one of the things that stood out to me about it. And so then that piqued my interest. Eventually, when the opportunity came by again, I wasn't so hesitant to try it.
Right.
But that was
you kind of got a late start a little bit.
I did. I mean, I grew up on the other side of this. I grew up on the other side of the war on drugs. I was a dare kid. My friends in grammar school or in high school that smoked weed, I cut them off.
Oh wow.
joined the military. Yeah, in the military, I doubled down on that ideology. You know, people were getting kicked out left and right for drug use, and I'm like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
dirtbags. So yeah, it wasn't until after I got out that I even considered, like, you know, this is something that you know, I could make a part of my, or never
Participating.
mind. Yeah, never mind. I had also caused so much damage to my personal and professional life with alcohol that at that point in my life I was like, really, weed can't be that bad, because I know a lot of potheads that have gotten in a lot less trouble than I have
Right.
with
yeah.
alcohol. So it was a little bit, you know, that made the pill a little bit easier to swallow as well, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. You
But
have a much better time just smoking some weed with some friends and like big party. Everybody's getting drunk. Somebody might try to fight by the end of the night. It's always
bro,
some kind of drama.
I could give you 1,001 different differences in like how people relate to each other, how business gets done, with weed versus doing all of that with alcohol.
Right.
And I have a, you know, very long and storied history with that, and I always use that as a point of reference, you know, because people are quick to, you know, knock back a couple of shots, but you say, hey, let's spark up this joint or let's hit this bong. They're like, oh, no, I don't do all that because, you know, I'm gonna get all crazy. Like, oh, relax, bro, relax.
It's
yeah.
gonna be all right.
Yeah, and the same thing, you know, it's funny because around that time when I started using cannabis regularly, one of the things that the conversations that eventually I was going to have was with my parents, right? And say, and granted, at this point, I'm an adult, been to war, got my own kids,
Yeah.
blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah, it doesn't matter. But still, right? Just the more for me out of like a respect thing, right? But, you know, and it was, you know, they kind of took it as,
Dealing with the
yeah,
family that's a little bit more old school.
yeah. They you know, they took it more like, hey, boy, you're an adult. You do what you want with your life. They like, we've already seen you, you know, have so many legal problems with
Yeah.
whatever.
That's good.
Weed's the least of our problems. But fast forward a couple years, I learned to make, you know, lotions and some balms for like
Right.
pain relief. And then my dad one day is like, man, you know, like my knees are hurting from arthritis. I was like, do you want to try some of this? And he's like, you know what, sure. You know, I started using it, and then now he hits me up, you know, like every couple of weeks, hey, I need a refill on, you know, my lotion or whatever for my knees. So it's
Some
interesting to
topicals.
have the ability to kind of bridge that gap too, right? Because like not just my dad now, because my tias too, you know, they're like, oh, you know, that stuff you gave your dad, he gave me some, can I have
Yeah.
some, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it's pretty cool. Like, I actually work in Little Village, and I've given some of the topicals that I've made to like some of my older coworkers. Like, there's this one guy, he's from Michoacan, and he got knee surgery a couple years ago. But like, there's certain points out of the year where it kind of like flare up and bother him.
Yeah.
So one day I
get it.
brought some and I just went up and gave it to him. And just knowing how he is about like most things, I thought he was gonna be like, no. Like I was trying to like give him drugs or something, but he took it and he was telling me, I guess there's something that they do in Michoacan where they'll take weed, but they'll mix it with like the green rubbing alcohol to make some type of like a salve or something like that.
Yeah, and they like when you're talking about topicals and you talk about like the whole plant, right? Like including, right, like the stems and stalk and stuff like that. Like there's benefit in all of that. And the crazy part is our ancestors had it right, man. They knew exactly what they were doing, and we went ahead and screwed all that knowledge up. And now we're struggling to find like, wait,
Before
what's
big
true?
pharma started coming in with all their lobbyists with the deep pockets and
Yeah. And,
what is it, the
so
reefer madness, to where they try to basically make it against like Mexicans and black people like down in the South, like, no, they're smoking reefer, they're so bad.
Yeah.
and it's
But it was
Wild.
really just out of their racism.
it's crazy. Like you fast forward to now and you realize the utility, right, of the plant on all those levels. And I feel like we're at a point in history where we're just barely scratching the surface on the
Oh
knowledge.
yeah.
Because once we're able to match the research and the technology to, you know, the development of the plant, right? Because just even when you talk about cultivation, right? Cultivating the plant in the 1990s versus cultivating the plant in 2025, like so much has changed, right?
Yeah. We learned so much.
We're not out there stealing fucking the lights, the street lights.
Yeah, yeah, man. It's
Because
and
if you
just
went
in the
down to
nutrient
Brew
game.
and Grow, you might get fired or followed by undercovers when you leave on it.
At Brew and Grow.
You remember that back in the day? Like if you went to Brew and Grow and you basically had to like rent a car or like park blocks away because they'd have the undercovers right outside of the one on the north side off of Elston.
On Belmont or Austin?
Elston.
Yeah,
It
Elston
used to
and
be
Belmont,
there.
right?
It's not there
Yeah,
anymore. Around there, yeah.
yeah.
But yeah, you literally get like followed back to your house by undercovers.
Yeah, I didn't really too much like hanging out in that area anyway. That precinct over there on what was that? What Western and Elston and
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've been in there once.
but yeah, so going back to like
What is that?
cultivating.
The 33rd precinct, I think.
He's fixated.
I actually
Oh,
know. I'm having like
Western is
flashbacks right now.
Wapner.
Yeah, apparently. Because I can't tell you any single one of the districts in Chicago, and that's for sure.
I definitely
Chicago's a wild place.
But at the core of what I've been able to like take out of my journey, like through cultivation, right, is that sense of empowerment, right? Part of the journey was when Illinois changed from being just medicinal to opening up to rec. As a patient, what I started to see was less availability of the stuff that I used to get regularly. And
And
that
then they made it like weird with the taxes if you were doing some type of like concentrate. If the THC percentage was over this, it'd be like additional fees and everything.
yeah, and I mean it sucked as a patient, right? Because like I was used to getting my stuff regularly and them always having it in stock, but then all of a sudden now everything, the stuff I used to get, they're always out of stock, and it's like shit, now I gotta jump around and try to find something new. And so that kind of fueled my desire to do this more, to cultivate more on a regular basis. Because as a patient, right, like I wanted to have
To
my
where you
stuff
can just supply
what's mine.
yourself.
Yeah, and so that eventually led to me understanding or being able to distinguish the difference between my home grow and the quality there versus like the stuff I was getting at the dispensary. And then I was like, wait a minute. If this applies to my weed, then it stands to reason that this would apply to my food too, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
And so that's what then fueled my desire to want to grow my own food, right? Because, and then never mind when I started like harvesting my first cucumbers back here, and I was like, wow, that's same experience, so much different than the stuff I get from the store,
It tastes different.
Yeah, and so like learning that, knowing that, understanding that it's not necessarily easy to do all of that, right?
Right.
But at least being a resource for people who want to try to make that transition, right? Or that
And
want
then
to
when you
develop
do
those
it
type of
for
skills.
long enough and you start to get the mastery to where it's like, wait a second, what I produce is better quality than this shit that I'm spending all this money for.
Yeah, and you learn and you learn, right? Like the reasons why, right? And then you could start to spot the bullshit when you hear legislators or you hear MSOs. You could start to identify, no, bro, that's bullshit. Get out of here with your garbage, right? So and that's always been true in my life experience. It's always been true. Knowledge is power, right? And that's why I like that at the core of what Mojo's or what Aim Higher is trying to do is to educate people, right? Whether it's cannabis, growing your own food, or trying to unplug or deconstruct your life from the systemic things that have, limited us or controlled us for so long. It's scary, right? It's scary. It's daunting. It's right because there's not necessarily a plan or a map or outline. And so being able to connect with people on different platforms from different walks of life. I've been in rooms where I have to talk to generals and colonels and other state dignitaries And I've been in a jail cell, you know, talking to a cellie that's, you know, looking at life in prison for murder, right? So
Yeah.
everything and
Yeah.
everyone in between, I can, you know, communicate.
Find a way to relate with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so because I feel like I can do that at least in a balanced way, especially when you factor in if we're smoking a little bit of
Yeah.
this heaven. Yeah, because right, like it makes communication, it makes vibing out, connecting so much easier, man. I feel like it's one of the most underrated parts or powers of the plant, right? Is it helps us to like meet on some common ground somehow, you know?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
It's
That helps
funny
having
though,
all those.
like how many different like sects of society or like little subgroups or whatever you want to call that, like where we might have nothing else in common, like period. We both like good weed.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, facts.
Yep.
Pass that while you're at it.
What you smoking on over there, man? Uh-oh, he's going deep.
I know.
So
Excuse me.
this right here is actually my
This shit
previous
right here?
harvest. Yeah, this is I got some right here. It's Guava Garcia. It smells so fucking delicious. I wish there was like a smell-o-vision. I don't know. I
I
don't know
know.
how good
I'll
of a
ask
look
the-
you. But it's great. Next time we see, I'll get you some of this in your hands.
Hell yeah.
But it's from Goat Genetics.
Oh, big shout out to Goat, by the way. Local
Yeah,
Chicago.
yeah. I want to say last year I ran almost exclusively their genetics like all year because Kevin's a really cool guy, and he sponsored like a couple of events that I did. Gave me a whole bunch of seeds, and so like I ran almost all his stuff exclusively.
You know, I was gonna go to the Goat Cup this year that just passed, and then I ended up having like a massive migraine that day, so I ended up like not even leaving my house that day. But I've
Damn.
actually talked to him a little bit. He's a really cool guy. I think if you're looking for him on Instagram, his name's like Vincent Van Goat on there.
Yep.
Band
Yep.
Go. I love it.
Yeah. He's really good guy, really knowledgeable. I've loved being.
Yeah, our friend. Do you know Spaceman Joseph? Spaceman Grown?
Spaceman Grown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen his page. I don't know him personally. Like I know some people, you know, via Instagram.
Right.
I
that's actually one of my buddies. Like, I don't know. He probably lives like 45 minutes away from he probably lives about the same distance as you. I still haven't met him in person yet, but
Okay.
I've done, I don't know. I think I've done like 3 or 4 podcasts with him now, but we've been friends for a while, just like talking through Instagram.
Okay.
But I know that Spaceman is a really big supporter of Goat Genetics.
Yeah. He's won a couple
Yeah.
awards.
Yeah, he's for sure good people, and that's probably one of my favorite things about being in this space is crossing paths with like other entrepreneurs who are like-minded, you know, like customer focused or consumer focused, as opposed to, you know, just putting the dollar first, right?
Yeah.
Finding
Oh, yeah.
partners like Up Elevated Cocktails. I collaborate with them a lot last year. AK-47. Like those organizations, Runners High, Chicago, because the plant is a part of the bigger community thing, right? There's so many other levels to it, and being able to find collaborators that have like a similar
Kind of like a Venn diagram in the
yeah, like where
just
where
the
that
little
crossover
circle.
is. Yeah, because I feel like again, there's so much more to the plant than just getting high, right? There's so much more to like what you're able to do, and being able to communicate that through different mediums, right? And giving legitimacy to the plant, to cannabis as a medicine or as a therapy. And so it's so cool to be able to do it in those different spaces. So like for the Elevated Book Club run by AK-47, I sponsor them because they focus on books that are like.
Big shout out to Mosca too, by the way. Thomas Cross in the chat here said, "Salute to the great Illinois breeders. Mosca makes great stuff too."
Oh,
I've grown a decent amount of their autoflowers, kind of back towards when I first started growing autos. But I've actually met Mosca in person. I got pictures with him. He's really legit breeder.
Yeah, I actually
he's done collabs with Tiki Madman.
So he has a strain called Rager. Like it's probably like one of my top 3 strains that I keep in rotation for me. But it's called Rager, and I came across it the first time I met him at an event at Simple Soil. I think like 3 years ago. 3 years? Yeah, 3 or so years ago. But yeah, really cool guy.
I met Mosca like 3-4 years ago now. But he was super legit. He was like humble. He didn't have like that like little Hollywoodness or anything about him.
Yeah, cool dude. Real down to earth guy to chat with. But yeah, so I have run their genetics. I like their stuff as well. I get them through Simple Soil. I think they used to be in Villa Park. Now they're out of Addison, I think.
Okay. Surrounding Chicagoland area.
Yeah, I know nothing Chicago. The river. You guys are dying at green soon, aren't you?
Oh yeah, we do for St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patrick's Day, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Where are you out of, Alicia?
I'm outside between Rochester and Buffalo, New York.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a little more
New York up there.
Yeah. Not the city.
How's the market over there? Like I hear like mixed reviews about like the New York market.
It's a joke. It's not very good. It's very controlled. Where I live, I mean, you can go to dispensaries where it's like extremely overpriced, or you can grow your own, or you can go to like reservations, and they're
a bunch
allowed
of
to
Indian
sell it.
reservations.
Yeah, like the natives, they're allowed to sell it there, but it's
okay,
not the same as like in other places.
Right. I don't know. It sounds like about as much bullshit as Chicago, so we got that in common.
Yeah, it's very expensive to go to the dispensaries out here. It's not really.
So,
and to even get into the market of selling, you need to buy a non-refundable. First, it's an application of like $3,000 or $5,000, and then after you've been approved, you have to pay $3,000 every year to keep the license. So you really got to make sure you're making that money.
$3,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, so you could basically got to be like hit the floor running, like be ready to go as soon as.
Yeah, pretty much. Like you even said though, you know, your rich uncle or that would help, but you have to.
Sounds like
for
there's
me, at least, some
less of
people
a
have.
barrier of entry though, because like the way Illinois is, like you can have like your 5 plants for medical, but anything else you got to pay like what you're talking about. But I think they want like 34,000.
Well,
This is for commercial to be able to sell it legally. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm saying in Illinois to be able to sell it legally, you got to be like one of like maybe 17 people they gave it to.
Yeah. Oh. It's
well for the home grow. I think you said the 5. I think right now the limit is 5, but I know they're looking to change that hopefully this year.
Really?
To increase
I haven't
the
heard
limit.
anything about that.
Yeah.
They're trying to increase it?
Yeah. So hopefully I got my fingers crossed because I mean, granted,
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah. Granted, you could do a lot with 5 plants, assuming, you put in the work, right, in terms of yield. But it would be nice to, like, not have to worry about, like, oh, if I'm taking these clones, like, oh, my God, am I breaking the law?
Right. Want to get a couple plants started a little bit sooner.
Yeah, to keep that rotation going. Yeah, because
right.
It is.
Do you grow outdoors?
But yes, of course, I always grow my 5 plants.
Yeah. So for outdoors, I've not grown successfully any cannabis outdoors.
Okay.
I tried one time, and then to be fair, I did. It wasn't like an honest effort.
Just
But
kind of
it didn't
fucking
even
around.
last. Yeah, it didn't even really last more than like a month because the animals got to it.
Really?
That's that's part of the problem that I have, like where I live, because there's a lot of critters in the space
What
over
up,
here.
macho?
So when I was growing like my fruits and vegetables, I ended up having to put a tent over them.
Yeah.
Because as soon as I transplanted, because I started the seeds indoors and I took them out, as soon as they started to sprout, the birds and the squirrels, they tore everything up. So I had to start all
Raccoons and
over.
squirrels.
Yeah. So I was like, damn, I had to start all over. I ended up putting a tent. But yeah, so I'm still trying to get a handle on that before I actually, because if it was, I don't know, I didn't feel too bad because it was my first time with like fruits and vegetables. But if it was like a cannabis plant that happened to it, I would have been much more hurt.
Yeah.
Been
Bro,
like,
I would have been pissed.
yeah.
Yeah. These are
So did you want to
expensive.
tell us more about the events that you do? Like I remember, I think this was maybe last year too, when my girl's sister came in town. We took her to one of your like little educational events. Did you want to talk more about that aspect of Mojo's?
Yeah, so that's something that I don't drive it from Mojo's anymore, like my own type of events. At that time when you guys came, I kind of decided I wanted to do like a 4 event series. That was one of the events in that series. But the amount of time and
Limited
effort and
edition.
yeah. So it was a lot of work, and it was just hard for me to manage like all of those pieces.
Oh,
So
okay.
nowadays I work mostly through collaboration, kind of like what I was saying earlier, like through Runners High.
Yeah.
And like very recently they had a really awesome event. It was like a food and wellness event. It was
Okay.
called Food Can Heal. So there was like a panel discussion. There were people talking about mushrooms, cannabis, food
Oh, nice.
sovereignty, like home cultivation. It was an awesome event. But through those events, like I feel like it makes more sense, like what I'm doing, because it fits like within those ecosystems, within those conversations, beyond just the cannabis part, right? So I do most of my collaborations this year, I think, are very much aligned and tied in with Runners High, with Up Elevated Cocktails. And through those collaborations, I'm able to reach audiences, like broader audiences, right? Because the hard part with the education,
Kind of like
right?
combining forces.
Yeah, because I realized
I've definitely heard of Runners High. I've seen some of the stuff that they put on Instagram, so big shout out to them. Local cannabis advocacy group.
Yeah, their motto is get lit, get fit, break the stigma. So
no more
yeah,
lazy stoners.
Yeah. I actually just yesterday they kicked off their 2025 season. So I was with them yesterday at the 606. So they did a nice little tribute to Gabe from Three Trees, rest in peace, who from the community recently passed away.
Did he?
So they did, yeah, Gabe.
I didn't know that. I've met him.
Yeah, he passed away almost, I want to say 3 weeks ago now.
Oh shit.
Yeah. It was so they did a nice little tribute to Three Trees to kick off the Runners High season. So it was nice to be a part of that, you know. The community at large, it's nice when you see it come together and the power that it has, like when it's moving, you know, all together. So I really do enjoy collaborating with them. So a lot of the events that I'm going to do this year are going to be right alongside with them. I am also doing I'm co-hosting now a podcast. Hopefully, we're kicking it off with Mafia Chicago. So it's not necessarily a cannabis podcast. It's a music podcast. But yeah, so I started off as a sponsor, like sponsoring the weed for the podcast, and then like I started talking to the host.
You don't want to be another boring grow show.
Well, and not even that. It's just because like I've been wanting to do. It's one of the things that I actually said that was on my agenda for 2025 is to actually give my brand more of a voice, right? Because
Right.
outside of like the private events or the private consults, most of my content, you don't really hear me. You just kind of see the visuals of what I do. So I've been wanting to, for 2025, one of my focuses has been to give my brand more of a voice. And ideally, right, I'd like to be able, I feel like I chat enough to be able to do a podcast, but like the resources and the time and the team that it takes to put that together, I don't quite have that yet. So in the meantime, anyone that will give me space, you know, or anyone that's down to have the conversations, I'm more than happy to have the conversations, be that, you know, via the internet or in person or whatever. I'm always down to, you know, share the knowledge and the information. So and to collaborate, like I said, because I feel like what I was saying earlier, the education part, like sometimes it's a hard sell just by itself, right? Like not everybody is as enamored with the education part as I am, right? Like I get it. I start to glaze over and it gets boring. So when I'm able to find collaborators that embrace the education part, but we can do so like in a different environment, be that in a cocktail club environment.
Add that energy, the excitement to it as well.
Yeah.
Then
I
they won't know
Make
they're
it
learning.
so it's like not so mundane, to where it's like relatable, to where you're not doing something like one of those like Mr. Grow It, Bruce Busby interviews where it's like you basically need like a 6 or 7 year college degree just to have like the comprehension of what you're hearing. But when you can take the information and then you can break it down so like a 5th grader could understand it. Like, not to say to teach a kid about weed, but I'm just saying to where you make it relatable to where anybody could absorb the knowledge, but make it entertaining at the same time.
You say that as a joke. But I'm going to tell you this, Cortez. The truth of the matter is that the average adult in the United States has a 5th or 6th grade reading comprehension level. So
I didn't say 5th grader by accident.
So I do I love those channels, right? Like I could sit and watch those channels and learn all day long, and I get that not everybody does. But I also, the other part of it too is I always try to consider my approach or the information I'm sharing from the perspective of the home grower, right? From the perspective of somebody that has kids, that has a job, that isn't focused on growing 24/7. And I understand that, you know, not everybody has a budget to buy all the meters and gauges and equipment and stuff. And so to be able to take that into consideration, right? Because the other part that I feel about the more technical channels or the more technical explanations is that a lot of times it makes the people that don't have the resources or don't have the knowledge base, like
makes
you
sound
feel
too
dumb
complicated.
and I feel like it's kind of off-putting. And I'm like, look, I can help you no matter what, you know, like at the end of the day, because I've been there, because I've gone through all the different stages of like you said, in the early days, the $20 lights off of Amazon, you know, like I've made all the mistakes. So if I could save you some, if I could save you some headache, if I could save you some frustration, you know, from overloading an extension cord and burning it out because you didn't take into consideration all the wattage going through it. Like I've been there, done that. Let me save you burning down your house.
Got the t-shirt.
I'll save your family for you.
And that's really at the core of what I enjoy about what I'm doing is I enjoy being a resource. I enjoy being useful, right? To whatever degree of useful that might be. It's fun for me, you know. It's fun for me to learn new ways to communicate with different people, you know. So and especially right now, like I said, right now, I feel like in history, like we're going through like some very uncertain, very like uneasy times, right?
And drones flying around.
Yeah, and I feel like
planes crashing, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, at the very least, if I could help you or inspire you to develop a skill that will be useful to you in some form or fashion, despite the trying or uncertain times, then cool. You know, I
Or it's
like
kind of
being
like, they say, like, if you give a man a fish, he can eat for the day. But if you teach a man to fish, he can eat for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's also something you can apply it as in your outdoor garden. It's something you can apply to multiple they are hand in hand. So once you kind of like learn the basics of one, you can apply it knowing why you do it. So now you can have food, you can have smoke. Like you said, you have your medicine, you're starting to really dominate what you grow do.
Yeah, and it's
Consume.
helpful. I feel like it's helpful to like other people, right? So last year, by accident, right? Like it wasn't even one of my intentions or one of my goals for growing my food, but my wife, she's a teacher, and we had like all these extra cucumbers, all these extra cantaloupe,
Yeah.
and she was like, "Why don't I do like a fresh fruit Friday for my students?" And I was
Oh,
like, "Bro, that's brilliant! It won't all go to waste." So
yeah.
I was in here chopping up all the extra cucumbers, putting them into containers, and be like, "Cool,
Oh,
now
that's
we're
so
at least,
awesome.
yeah, we're at least trying to give them, like, hey, consider eating at least a serving of, fresh
Yeah.
fruit."
Yeah.
Right.
So many different things you can do with like something so simple, because if you learn to cultivate, like even my weed, right? Like I grow much more than I need. Like one of my harvests is enough to last me really for the year.
Oh, wow.
But never mind if I could get 3 or more harvests in a year,
Right.
then like,
Yeah.
wow, yeah, let me share.
Somehow mine
And so
runs out like 3 weeks later.
and so that's right. Ideally, I feel like, and I keep saying this, and I feel like little by little the vision is starting to come together. But if I could just give this all away, right? Like, and be able to get good quality, safe, pesticide, chemical free weed
Mm-hmm.
into people's hands, great. But unfortunately, like all the cost of operating and doing all that, right? Once you factor that in, there's going to be a price for it, right?
Yeah, there's
And
gonna be.
so I keep in my heart or in my mind, I keep coming back to, I think at the end, this might end up looking something like a nonprofit, because I feel like when I look at it like as a business model, like a for profit, it's hard to not get lost in the sauce of those business models, right?
Yeah.
And the more and more I think about it, it's just a matter of figuring out like what that nonprofit is gonna be able to look like, right? Never mind to find support for a cannabis nonprofit, with
Right.
but through collaboration and through meeting and talking and engaging with the community more, I feel like that will come more into focus, right? Like with time. So having
And
these
find some type
conversations.
of like alternative revenue streams off of it to where you could monetize, like, and I'm not even saying monetization for like profit, but to where like you're keeping the lights on, like
Yeah,
you're kind of absorbing
We gotta
some
put that
more of the
money in it.
operational costs, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
yeah. Hence the merch. Hence the merch.
Yes.
I just got to figure out how to make that like affordable for everybody, right? Because that's the other part of
Right.
it, right? And then the other part of it, there's so much to consider, right? When you want to do it right, and I get it. I get why people take shortcuts, because doing it right takes a lot of thought, takes a lot of
Yeah.
effort, energy. But being able
Well,
to
if you're
find
gonna do something, you might as well do it right.
yeah, finding sustainable partners, right? Like
Right.
my next evolution is to try to find merch that is made from hemp, so that it's
Yeah.
like full circle.
Full
Like
circle.
I would love to, but right now the only ones that I find, like, they're so expensive that it doesn't even make sense, like for a little guy
Right.
like
To where
me.
you
Yeah.
kind of be upside down on it.
That part. But hopefully, right? And I think the proof has kind of been there over the last 3 years, the evolution of my business. It's coming more and more into focus, right? The more I collaborate, the more I talk to people, and I feel like the more people come to the same conclusion themselves.
Yeah.
That
Well, that's the thing that's really cool about networking, though, because it's like if you kind of set yourself to do certain things, like it won't always work, but like I've gotten some of the best connections like in the community, but really just in life in general, from people that I've talked to for no reason. You know what I mean? And it's like just talking to somebody, you establish some type of rapport, and then down the line they're like, oh yeah, by the way, like
Yeah.
I know how to
My
do
friend-
this. I have access to this.
Yep.
Hey, I got this friend. He might be able to give you a better price on this.
Yeah, bro. Matter
Yeah.
of fact, and so random. Look,
Random. That's what I'm saying.
we ended up buying this house last year, and we needed like a real estate lawyer. We didn't need a realtor because we were already renting the house, right? We just needed
Okay.
someone to help us
Right.
like through the contract stuff of all of that. And the person that we ended up using, it was someone that we met through an event through the cannabis community that was like, hey, you know, we can help you out.
I believe it.
Yeah.
And then the same thing, the agent that we used for the mortgage was
For
someone
like
that
the
we met through the
signing and
cannabis.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So it's funny how like a lot of those connections have been made for us, like through just relating through
Yeah.
sharing
So-
a joint.
If there's anybody
Just
out
from
there
the
that
shared
knows
experience.
a hemp clothing manufacturer that would join forces.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I actually might know of one. There is I know like all the DGC like for the cup, they're all like hemp. Wait, no, I have my White Sox hat on. I have a hat from them too. I want to say they're like the Alpine Company or something like that. I could look into it though, if that's a question you got.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, I know the companies exist, but the challenge, at least for me, right, is like the meeting the MOQ and like
Right.
having
Or
that.
you talk to certain people to where it's like the price makes sense, but they want to know if you want 10,000 units.
That's one thing. Get you.
Yeah. So and I really like in the early days, right? I kind of like everybody else to save money. You know, you went through like a lot of the overseas producers and chippers and stuff like that. But especially now with all these different costs increasing for that,
Or
I
have you ever
really
checked out T-shirt Deli on the north side?
so yeah. So with regards to the apparel, so there is a partner that I'm a partnership that I'm looking to work. Unfortunately, it's just not hemp. It's not, you know, so
Oh,
it's
it's
a
not
good, yeah, it's good product, but it's not hemp. Because like I said, though, at least the ones that I have found have just been outside of my price range
Yeah.
for,
Oh, that makes sense.
yeah. But you know, it'll come, it'll happen. It's not
Yeah.
anything that's necessarily pressing for me right now. Like I said, right now my focus is more about getting a voice to my brand and at least becoming familiar with people or letting people become familiar with me. Because you know, I'm gonna keep making moves because I enjoy it. I enjoy being able to collaborate, be an asset to other businesses. Because if nothing else, I know that the knowledge that I have can be an asset, and I love it when it works out to, you know, helping other people, other business, other missions get off the ground. You know, like it's fun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You're good at it.
what are you smoking over there, Cortez?
I got jars on jars on jars. So
Man, a lot of
right
empty jars.
now, yeah, it is getting kind of ugly over here, but I got a couple autoflowers that are coming down soon, and then I have my 5x5, so that's 25 square feet. It kind of sucks though. I ran out a little too quick.
Yeah.
But what I got right here is actually something I got sent out by Fast Buds. So they sent me the whole photo period lineup, and I found a unicorn in the papaya sherbet. I liked it so much. It was the first time I ever did a re-veg. But I know I truly found a unicorn as far as the phenotype on here. I'm actually working on a project for them right now.
For
Might be
Fast
kind of,
Bucks?
yeah, it might be too early to say anything, but they actually want to do a special with me when they come over stateside from Spain for the, what is it, the Autoflower World Cup, but they're actually stopping in Chicago first. Sebastian Good's
Yeah.
gonna do like a home grow report with me.
Okay.
And I believe then they're going to Denver, and then the final destination is LA for, I know it's sometime in April.
Okay.
But
So you got a
that's
busy couple of
actually,
months coming up, huh?
yeah, getting married,
Yeah,
vending
big year.
food at a cannabis. I'm always doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. Yeah, for me, from the business side, a lot of stuff has kind of stalled, um, mainly because financially, like I'm in the process of selling my house in Indiana, and so like I got so much tied up in
Yeah.
that, like just
Right.
waiting. It's been like
Kind
it's
of
been
like
in
a
limbo.
transitional period,
Yeah, yeah. So
doing the reset thing.
yeah, and so that's another way that being able to collaborate with other people has helped, because like the financial burden of like staying afloat, or staying present in the community is a lot less of a stress
Right.
for me.
Yeah.
So that definitely like eases that, at least so that I'm able to keep surviving, right?
Well,
Especially during
it's
like
kind of
a
like staying relevant, but it's just kind of like keeping your name alive, staying current to where even if you don't have the most going on or you're kind of taking care of your own stuff, like personal stuff behind the scenes, you're still got your name out there in the community.
Well, I just see
yeah.
you have some stuff like at that end of April, right? You have an event coming up.
Um, so yeah, so with the Runners High Run Club, um,
Oh, okay.
so we haven't done any of the promos yet, but there will be a 420 run on 419 on April 19th, and then the
Oh, so
four
that's a Saturday?
yeah, it's a Saturday, and then I
Where's that
think
going to be at?
if I'm not mistaken, and I know we just had this conversation, so but it should take place at the 606 on Saturday,
Okay.
the 19th. Yeah. More
Remind me, I'll
details to
come
come.
out.
Yeah, more details to come. Like literally, like I said, they just kicked off the season yesterday. And so I'll be chatting with them later this week. But yeah, as soon as
Oh,
we get the promos, I'll make sure to share them with you.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then
We'd love
there'll
to
also
share that.
be an event. Yeah, there'll be an event on the 18th. The 420 event will take place the evening before.
Okay.
So more details to come
So
for
I
that.
know 420 is a Sunday, right?
Hmm.
So 419 would be a Saturday.
Yep.
Send me the info about that, like in the DM. I would come out for the Saturday one.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, last year it was an awesome event. Last year they had a couple
Hell
different
yeah.
sponsors. They had a DJ out there. So it's a cool event. And like I said, it's great. The angle, right? The approach to say, hey, we're more than just some bunch of lazy
Yeah,
stoners.
yeah.
Breaking the
And
stoner stereotype.
yeah. 1
My
mile at a
friend.
time. 1 mile at a time.
Yeah. Well, I just said there was Simply Natural. She's on Instagram, and she has that same concept. It's like she wakes up, she smokes her bong, she goes, she's a personal trainer, so that's her, her life. But it's like, still
I
grind and
smoke
burn.
cigarettes too. I can still run a 9.5 minute mile.
That's probably still better than me. I have a very difficult relationship
I'm
with
fast
running.
though.
I don't like
Yeah.
running.
I mean,
Yeah.
I like fitness. Don't get me wrong. I still, exercise and stuff. But me and running, we have a very strange relationship. But I think it's probably due to like so many years of like waking up early and running in
Oh
the
yeah,
Air
because you're in the
Force and stuff like that.
military.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm
Doing all
pretty
that
sure.
PT.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that factors into it too. Never mind that I'm horrible for shin splints. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, I am a fan of fitness though. I still, don't get me wrong, I still
Not
do
everyone.
my
I don't like to run that much either. I like keeping personally. Like I'd love to live on a farm, and I'd love for that to be my my workout schedule because I would actually, I do it and I don't mind working, because then I also know.
Yeah.
I'm
I-
so impatient. Sometimes I just start running even when I don't need to.
So
Like get
so
somewhere quicker, trying to like maneuver through Chicago. Get the fuck out of my way.
I want to say my aim with my fitness journey has changed over time, right? Like once upon a time, it was like, oh, I want to be strong. Oh, I want to look pretty. Oh, I want a six pack. Now it's like, no, wait a minute. I just want to make sure that I got good hips and good knees so that I'm not bedridden by the time I'm 75 or 80. I'm like, so stretching,
Stretching is
yoga,
key.
like, yeah, because it's changed so much because, like, I don't need to be Mr. Olympia. I don't need a six pack. My wife loves me just the way it is with all my little chubbiness that comes with it. So I'm good.
You love the
Um,
gym.
um, so I'm like, I'm good. I just want to be functional, and I want to make sure that doing the things that I love, I'm preparing myself to be able to do that for a
Yeah.
sustained amount of time over my life, So gardening works. It's great. So when I'm working on my squats or working on my hinges, that's perfect for gardening. I don't got to carry anything too heavy, so
It's buckets of water. Yeah.
yeah, I
Couple
could be
bags
doing
of
this.
dirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assuming I win the like genetics lottery, right? Like I could be doing this well into my hundreds,
Yep. You
Hell yeah.
could.
All right, we're coming up on an hour and a half here, so I think we will start wrapping up. But did you have any shout outs that you wanted to give?
I think I gave a couple. Carlos Ramos from Up Elevated Cocktail and Runners High. Anna Karen, aka 47, from also Runners High. And who else have I been collaborating with? Juana Mama Delights. So we did kind of touch up on the chronically growing. We're still evolving that channel. That's a channel where we're trying to do is we grow the same genetics or same plants. He uses a cocoa base for his grows, and I use living soil, and then we do like
Loyal to the
comparison.
soil, baby. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, I love I've tried different ways of growing. Probably the only one
If I got a
quit last-
pH, it's not worth my time.
Yeah, if I the only one that I didn't give like a fair shot at trying was like aeroponic growing. But everything else, like I've tried, and I really like soil. It's a lot more forgiving. It's more patient with me. And it
That
allows
works
me
for
the
your style the
flexibility in my
best.
life. Yeah.
Oh hell yeah.
But so shout out to Juana Mama Delights and our chronically growing project. Hopefully we'll be able to add some more content and comparisons there. Shout out to I think your sponsor, right, I think it's these guys. Hold on one sec. Let me step out of screen for a sec. These guys, right?
Yeah. Big shout out
Recharge.
to Real Growers.
Real growers.
Yeah.
Recharge for the win.
Yeah.
Recharge for the win.
Because it once I came across that as a product, like one of the things I had a lot of struggle with was like transplant shock and stuff like that. So whenever I transplant, I use that for sure, and that's helped to kind of streamline that process for me. Like instead of having to wait like a week for my plants to recover, it's almost like they don't.
Where you kind of got like that like little down period. Plus, you can be so much looser with your pH.
Yeah. And now actually, so even the way that I harvest has changed, mainly because I use a canitrol to cure, and there's a limit. There's a limit to how much I could fit in there for it to go through its process. So I can't do my entire harvest at once. So when I learned that the first time, my plants struggled. Like I was like, damn, my plants struggled like during that harvest when I did a partial harvest. But when I started using the recharge, man, it
can take the abuse a little bit more.
Yeah, but in a crazy way, bro. Because I haven't measured it yet, and again, this process for the way that I harvest is really new to me. Like within my last two grows,
right.
I am almost willing to bet that second part of my harvest, after I dump like the recharge, like that second is almost better than like the first layer of those tops that I get. And call me crazy,
I believe it.
But I don't know how to measure it. I don't know like exactly like what to do, but I have separated them, right? Like, so I separate the harvest, but there's a noticeable difference. So I really enjoy like being able to find out like these low-key hacks, bro, because
it's kind of funny too, because like especially for new growers, if they use recharge, it can be like almost like harvest insurance, because it's like from the little mistakes that you might have made as like a newer grower to where it, you know what I mean, it could have like caused havoc to where you would have like killed your plants. Get a little bit of recharge in there, and even if things kind of go left, it won't go like all the way sideways
too much. Yeah. So that has really helped me, like, because like I said, I've been changing the way I do things, and it's really helped to soften that. So shout out to them, because that has helped.
Hell yeah.
Get that mycorrhizae feeding in there.
Yeah. But yeah, man, and I appreciate you guys, man. I appreciate the invite. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to chat.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I've enjoyed. I know that I can talk long and talk a lot.
But I appreciate, good, brother.
I appreciate it. And yeah, anybody else looking to collaborate, anyone looking to chat, just reach out via Instagram. Shoot me a DM. I'm happy to talk weed till the cows come home.
And if anybody did want to reach out to Joseph, I have clickable links down in the description for his Instagram as well as his website.
That's Johnny, buddy.
Oh wait, what did I say?
You call me Joseph, man. I want some of that. Give me some of that. Give me some of that Fast Buds. Put some of that to the side for me.
Some of the papaya sugar.
Make sure I get some of that in my hand.
I'm stoned. Most definitely. But get me some of the info for that run thing for the 420 event. Oh, come on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think they're putting out the promos this week. So as soon as I get any of that, I'll make sure to share that with you, so you can share with the audience.
Hell yeah, and I'll come out too. If anybody's in the Chicagoland area, feel free to join us. I'll post about it too since I'm coming out.
Okay.
Awesome.
Sounds good. I appreciate you. Alicia, you take care.
Make a commitment to come out. I might run a couple blocks with you guys, talk shit, smoke some weed.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. It sounds like a good time.
Yeah, right.
Hell yeah. All right, man. Thanks for coming on.
I'll talk to you again.
Take care.
Yeah, I am really stoned right now.
When you turned on that background, I'm like, this real?
Oh yeah, no, they were talking about
for
the
me. I was
like, oh, hold on, let me throw my Real Growers background on really quick.
Yeah.
Alicia, do you know who the guest is next week? I'm drawing a blank.
I don't remember, and I even tried to make a point to remember and didn't bring in my reminder. I had it written down, but I forgot to bring it in.
It's Chi-Town, Canna Chica, and Gigi is coming on.
I was thinking I
just cheated. I forgot, but I just looked at my schedule.
Yeah, I knew they were coming up.
At least one of us had it. Hell yeah. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Until next week.
Get more grown ups.
Let me this bitch or thought it.